joined now on the line by Ann Coulter, New York Times bestselling author. And her most recent book is Resistance is Futile. And the previous one was In Trump We Trust. Do we still, in Trump We Trust, does that still apply today, Ann?
We'll have to see, but if necessary, I'll have the shortest change to the title ever required for a paperback, just to add an ED to trust. In Trump We Trusted.
So, okay, I know you want to critique his performance on the wall, so why don't you just go for it, Ann?
Well, we can talk about something else, but I didn't watch 1 second of the Oscars, so I don't know what else there is.
Well, how about you want to talk about Bob Kraft and the day spa up in Jupiter?
Yeah, that's something. I don't think there's really much to say. It looks like they pretty much have him. Pretty gross story. I think Trump needs to read In Trump We Trust. He was great. His campaign was magnificent. And I would say in defense of not only myself, but everyone who supported Trump and expected him to keep his immigration promises, the most important promises he made. He's been magnificent on things that are much more complex than building a wall and deporting illegals, something Americans have been voting for over and over and over again, and we can never get politicians to do it. The judiciary, for example, he's been fantastic. Why? Because he delegates it to people who know what they're doing, the Federalist Society. Does anyone think President Trump had ever heard of Brett Kavanaugh, has read a word by Neil Gorsuch or Brett Kavanaugh or the various other judges he's nominated? No, but he gets the right people. He's been magnificent on changes to the FDA and a lot of scientific funding by the government. Why? Because he farms that out to Peter Thiel. But when it comes to immigration, he's farmed it out to Jared, Mark Short, the Koch brothers. It's really stunning that even since signing this bill that prohibits him from building a wall on the border, Vice President Pence has rehired Mark Short, who is the one most responsible for blocking a wall, proposing amnesty, because that's what his former employers, the Koch brothers, want. They want to drive wages down. That's good for the rich. It's bad for those of us who work for a living.
The Koch brothers seem to be drifting to the left, don't they? What's going on with them?
Well, it's strange. I'm glad you say that because, I never knew this. They're so good on other issues, and they've been very generous, unlike a lot of billionaire right-wingers who just think, stay out of politics altogether. They really do have a very impressive history of supporting mostly good causes when it comes to anything but immigration. This is what made Trump's candidacy miraculous and spectacular. He was, and I think he exposed both parties, he was running against both the GOP and the Democrats. It was Trump and the people. And that's what's so disheartening about the way things are going right now. I'm totally for the emergency declaration. I'm totally for him finding money in other areas that can be spent, for drug interdiction, that sort of thing. But it's getting a little depressing seeing that it then, lands in the lap of Mark Short or Jared Kushner, or, the fact that we found out the day before Trump signed this really heinous open borders bill, far more egregious than anything I think Hillary Clinton could have gotten through. The Angel Moms go to Capitol Hill. They meet with Democrats, they meet with Republicans, they go to the White House. The Angel Moms, you'll all recall, are the parents of children who have been killed by illegal aliens.
Right.
Trump, but he brought them up on stage, another part of his stupendous candidacy. No, most Americans had never heard of the Angel Moms. MSNBC and CNN and even Fox don't even put them on, or didn't until Trump.
Well, they don't think there's an MS-13 problem. They said that on MSNBC last year, that MS-13 is a myth. Of course they don't think the angel moms are real, and angel dads, angel parents.
But Trump brought them up over and over again, introduced them, let them tell their stories, and from the beginning they were with Trump. They were his most devoted supporters for obvious reasons. They came to the White House the day before Congress presented Trump with this open borders bill, and they were turned away by Acting Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney, telling them, no, if the president sees pictures he might not sign this wonderful bill. So the angel moms were going to have a protest outside the White House against the bill to try to get the message through to Trump, whom they were barred from seeing, and they got angry, nasty phone calls from Mercedes Schlapp in the White House.
They were let in for the actual ceremony, right?
And Kellyanne Conway, and the reason that happened, they were being screamed at for trying to see the president and staging a protest. The way that happened, I hope it comes out someday. It is a deep throat, very secret method that someone sympathetic with the angel moms got through and called directly into Trump's cell phone, and that's the only way they got in. He had no idea what his White House staff, whom he chose and put in these positions of power, were hiding from him. Now, if that's the White House staff, he still hasn't hired Chris Kobach, the man who wrote E-Verify, who came up with taxing remittances, who came up for a less brash Republican candidate, Mitt Romney, the idea of self-deportation, and so on and so forth. Instead we have to have, John Kelly's special friend, Kirsten Nielsen, who's also been blocking Trump on all of his immigration promises. So, I don't know, I guess you can say, no, he really wants to do it, but he's being stopped by his own staff, but how about getting rid of that staff? When he wants to get something done, he does it.
Honestly, Ian, I'm glad you're less strident than I thought you would be, because, as the weeks go by, the Democrats just move further and further and further to the left. Every day it's like there's some new crackpot proposal, whether it's the Green New Deal or reparations or tearing down the walls that already exist. We don't have any choice. We gotta stick with Donald Trump, or it really is over. It's 2016 over again.
No, I think what you're saying is an argument for greater stridency from the people who want Trump to keep his promises. Whether you and I support him, we supported a lot of Republicans against really heinous Democrats. It's not going to work. Trump barely, if you look at the numbers anyway, he won the 2016 election with 80,000 votes spread out over various industrial Midwest states. In the last midterm elections, while those elections in Florida and Texas were close, I promise you the media and the Democrats are not going to get caught sleeping this time. The giant tech companies are not going to get sleeping this time. If pressure isn't put on Trump to fulfill his primary campaign promises, it doesn't matter what you and I say. No, to the contrary. I'm claiming I'm the president of Trump's re-election committee. Other people can make the posters. I'm the one who's trying the hardest to actually get him re-elected by keeping his campaign promises, because an awful lot of people who voted for him, he's probably already lost at least 10%. And those are, either independents or Democrats.
He has, his numbers have gone up among Hispanics, among blacks. I would assume.
I don't believe the polls under Trump. Good or bad, I don't believe them. What we know is you cannot trust polls on Trump. We know the last election was close, and if he doesn't fulfill his, there's never been a bell rung so loud in American politics as Americans voting for Donald Trump in 2016. That's why it was a miracle election. How many times do Americans have to vote to say, please stop turning our country into a third world hellhole? We've been voting this way for 20 years, and somehow a court will stop it, or we'll get the promises, build the dang fence, this or that, and it never gets implemented. So in a way, everything that was non-traditional about Trump, the fact that he hadn't been vice president or a general or something like that, a governor of California, it weirdly played in his favor. We figured politicians had screwed us over and over and over again. Maybe we needed a non-politician who wouldn't care about the opinion of the elites, who wouldn't care about, the New York Times and MSNBC crying over separated children. No, can you care about Americans this time? And I don't know, in his heart of hearts, I assume he still believes it, but when he wants to get something done, as he does on the judiciary and as he does with the FDA and a lot of the scientific stuff, he knows how to delegate it to the right people. But when it comes to immigration, he has let the Koch brothers take over. And there's
the
no
Koch
question
brothers,
but that he wouldn't have been elected without those positions.
I don't know if I told you this. You know where David Koch lives in Palm Beach. And, so the other night I was coming back from down south, and I turned and made that left turn onto Barton Avenue where he lives at the end of the street, and I could see he was getting out of the car, and he had two bodyguards with him, and he has that giant fence up there. I mean, you could have a tank couldn't get through that fence. And I was thinking to myself, if I were David Koch and I was worth $45 billion, maybe I could afford to be a little more cavalier about the wall or the fence,
Right. Right, I wonder what Charles Koch's fence is like, because I kept trying to send them, get copies of Adios America to the two of them. I could never understand why these, like I say, really great ideologically on every issue except immigration, why they were so bad on immigration. I just wanted them to read Adios America, even just portions of Adios America.
Well, you could maybe get Adios America across David Koch's wall, but I think, Ann, you're going to need a catapult to do it.
Well, I think at this point his doormen and servants have like 50 copies of it. But, Charles Koch lives out in Wichita, and I've been threatening to fly out there, break into his house, tie him up, and read him the entire version of Adios America. I'll feed him. I'll keep him comfortable. I just want to force him to hear that book, because the country, the regulatory regime, regulatory environment, and taxes he wants, they're going to be over if they keep this push up for cheap labor. You're going to end up with presidents.
Well, I got a question here. 781 says, wasn't it? Why isn't Ann's anger directed towards the rhinos who've been hamstringing Trump at every turn? Like, for instance, the former House Speaker Paul Ryan. I mean, a lot of this, Ryan is no better than Pelosi.
This is the blame shifting. The answer is we didn't elect Paul Ryan president. Donald Trump ran against Paul Ryan. I mean, surely your listeners do not forget Paul Ryan saying he couldn't endorse Trump. I'm not there yet. And then Trump hilariously turning around and refusing to endorse Ryan some months later. He had a primary opponent saying, I'm just not there yet.